Are you ready
Let's do it.
to take a drive down Pennsylvania Avenue and get some history?
Okay, you ready?
All right, guys. Get your knowledge caps on like we do. He's wearing a
Sure.
hat. I'm wearing a beanie. Kind of wearing caps.
One of these is a knowledge cap. One of them is not. You decide.
I mean, you're wearing a White Sox hat. So
What do you got against the White Sox?
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
I didn't say anything.
December 13th, 1812.
Woo! That's a long time ago.
Yeah, there was some sort of war that year. I don't know. The last of Napoleon's Grand Army. This has nothing to do with that war, by the way. The last of Napoleon's Grand Army arrives in Poland after being thoroughly annihilated by the Russian winter. So R.I.P. to all those dudes. Yeah, I guess that's really.
Yeah, that was
about
like I forgot the percentage. It was just as bad as like the Germans back in World War II. Like the percentage of people that actually got back home. Definitely a lot of deserters as well that didn't make it back. And it's kind of weird how some stuff like that where like a Frenchman ends up in like Eastern Europe and then just like there's definitely stories of soldiers that just made up shop and like just lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get those like different bloodlines going on. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like there's people in Eastern Europe that have French last names still. But yeah, definitely devastating. Just the way the Russians handle warfare like that, it's kind of crazy. But yeah.
December 14th, 1799, marks the death. It was the day that George Washington passed away at his estate at Mount Vernon. Obviously, the first president of the United States, commander of the Continental Army during the Revolution. I have been there. He's buried next to Martha Washington. They're in these like gated little. There's like each of like their actual like burial site has like a little building over it.
Oh, like a tomb.
Kind of. It's not like it has an iron gate that you can walk into.
Oh, okay.
If it's obviously locked when you're there, but like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 walls and a roof and then an iron gate. I don't like each one of them. That's pretty cool. December 14th, 1819. Again, keeping with all states are admitted into the Union in the fourth quarter of the year.
I think we've had one like every week.
At least one, yeah.
Like the last month and a half.
December 14th, 1819, Alabama becomes the 22nd state. Partially because there was a demand to level obviously before there were 21 states, but there were 11 free states and 10 slave states. So Alabama was admitted as the 22nd state to bring the balance to 11 and 11. Obviously, Alabama's in the South, so there you go. December 14th, 1896, Air Force General, eventually General, James H. Doolittle is born. He's obviously most famous for Doolittle's Raid, which was the first bombing campaign of the Japanese home islands.
Yeah, but yeah, first bombing, yeah.
Yeah. So he had to engineer this whole plan. They stripped down B-25 Mitchells of like all their armor and like extra weapons and such in order to launch the B-25 Mitchells off of carriers and bomb the home islands. I think like most of those people died. I think.
Or were captured.
Or were captured, right? Because they didn't actually make it to their destination in China. But in any case, it's a really cool story. If you've ever seen the movie Pearl Harbor, there's a very dramatized version of this.
I think they made a documentary of this not too long ago.
I'm sure they did.
Like an updated one, and they talked about it.
How
crazy it was to do that, to launch those planes off the carriers, which has never been done before.
Yeah. December 14th, 1911. A man named Roald. I'm not sure if there was a typo on this, if it's supposed to be Ronald, but it said Roald Amundsen. He and his crew were the ones that discovered the South Pole in the Antarctic.
Found some penguins with that too, probably.
Yeah.
Probably ate some penguins too.
Probably did, actually. December 15th, 1832. A man named Alexander Gustav Eiffel is born. He was the chief architect, obviously, behind the Eiffel Tower in Paris. I forget what they actually like built that for, but whatever, it's cool.
Don't they have like multiple? So like, Multiple Eiffel Towers?
I don't think so.
Oh, I know for a long time that was the tallest structure built since like the pyramids.
Okay, yeah, that's probably right. December 15th, 1890, Sitting Bull is killed in a shootout at his cabin in Standing Rock, South Carolina. There was an army, I forgot his name, Lieutenant something or other. He was sent to arrest him, and then they ended up in like a shootout, and Sitting Bull was killed. Obviously, it kind of stoked the racial tensions between Native Americans and the U.S. government at that time with his death. I also didn't realize that, like, obviously Standing Rock was in the news a few years ago with the whole Keystone Pipeline thing, and I, like, didn't even equate that was, like, where this had happened or where that was even, like, a significant location.
Yeah, I mean, even like the Mountain Rushmore, that's actually apparently from I've read this somewhere. I forgot what it was. I'm not sure if it's fact or not, but apparently that was like sacred ground as well, where they actually built the Mountain Rushmore.
Okay,
and that was, I think it's the same tribe that's related to them, because that's obviously Mountain Rushmore is in North Dakota, right? Yeah,
no.
Isn't it?
No.
Or Wyoming?
No, it's in South Dakota.
Oh, South Dakota.
The Black Hills are in South Dakota, or at least where that is in the Black Hills are in South Dakota.
Okay, whatever.
December 16th, 1485, Catherine of Aragon is born. She is the first of many wives to Henry VIII.
This is a fantasy show.
Just
Catherine of Aragon.
Catherine of Aragon is born. She had
What the fuck is Aragon?
she had 6 children. Obviously, Henry VIII is famous for killing his wives because they would not bear him.
Wait, I'm guessing she's the one that finally had a male.
No, she's the first wife.
Oh, she was the first wife?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't get a male at all, I don't think, right? Or maybe later.
I think there was one, but he died as like an infant. So Catherine of Aragon had 6 children with Henry VIII, all of them female, and only one of them survived into adulthood.
Damn.
Mary the First.
Dosed.
So yeah, and then obviously her husband Henry VIII created the Church of England because he was not allowed. The Catholic Church would not allow him to divorce Catherine of Aragon. So he left the Catholic Church, made his own rules basically, so that he could divorce his wife. And he remarried 8 times and never had an heir. So
Dosed.
there you go.
R.I.P. sperm.
Lots of birthdays on December 16th. December 16th, 1770, Ludwig van Beethoven is born. Obviously, probably the most famous of the classical composers. I would say maybe like him and Bach.
Mozart.
Come
on, dude.
No, I think I would put Beethoven above
Top 3
Mozart.
right there, dude.
Well, yeah, sure. But I think I would put.
I'm trying to remember. I watched
Beethoven.
Bill and Ted recently, and I'm pretty sure it's Beethoven and not Mozart. But which one? Who? Beethoven was the one that was death. One of them was death for sure.
I feel like that was Mozart.
Okay, well Mozart was on Bill and Ted then.
Okay.
But regardless, badasses of their time. They're all around. They were all around the same time.
Yeah,
I think so, right?
More
Most
or
of them
less.
are German too.
Mozart is
Prussian?
Austrian.
Well, same thing.
Okay, whatever.
I'm just kidding.
December 16th, 1773 is the anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, where a bunch of people angry about the new, not the Stamp Act, maybe it was the Stamp Act? I don't know. Anyway, there were new taxes on tea, and the people in the colonies were not happy about it, so they decided to dump all the British tea into the Boston Harbor. They dressed up as Indians, though, so that no one knew who it was.
Yeah, dude, this is like this is all like weird from like you hear like revisionist history and then you hear like actual history. It's like mumble jumbo, like I don't even know the straight story anymore after hearing so many different versions. So I kind of have my own in my head, but I'm like I'm not gonna say it.
Okay.
But it was definitely like a what's it called? Like the like the tea industry at the time kind of saying like, if you guys were not doing this, of like the colonies. Because like tea, tobacco, all those kind of what would you call them, kind of resources,
commodities.
There you go. That were going on in the colonies that were kind of being taken advantage of. So
December 16th, 1775 is the birthday of Jane Austen, author of Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, and probably other things that I'm just not aware of or ignorant.
Well, obviously, Pride and Prejudice is our number one go-to. Like, hey, yo, you know who Jane Austen? Like Pride and Prejudice. Dog.
Yeah.
I totally forgot what that book is all about. Isn't it like
It's like 3 sisters and they're all trying to find husbands.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a that was a huge generalization of that book right there, but that's kind of like cause there's like a Percy, and there's like I don't remember all the names.
I think
we read that book in high school / Spark noted it.
I didn't.
Really? Oh,
No.
Maybe it was honors then.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
You guys are always you guys always read our books during like summer break or something like that, and then you guys got to read like the cool ones.
We were supposed to read the books.
Yeah.
Summer break. How many of those books did I read?
That's what I'm saying.
Break?
I was like, yo, dude, like, I remember talking to like one of my teachers, and I was like, yo, when are we gonna read one of these cool books? Because like you guys were talking about these books. I was like, I want to read one of those, dude. And it was like,
you didn't miss much.
Huh?
You didn't miss much.
Well, I know. I enjoyed some of the books. Like I enjoyed 1984, Lord of the Flies. I still like those books. To Kill a Mockingbird. Like one of the I reordered To Kill a Mockingbird for my nephew. I'm gonna give him that early before.
Did you ever read the sequel?
I have not gotten to do that.
Along Came a Watchman.
Yeah, I still need to order that. But if he enjoys that, then I'm gonna order that for him. I also got him Watchmen. But anyways, I enjoyed all those books. Well, no, because he's in the comic books, and like I sometimes he.
Is that where you want to start? Is Watchmen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Watchmen's a great comic book for him, and it's also I also didn't want to get him like a series of stuff. I wanted to get him something where he can read back to front and like not have to like get something else to like read with it. You know what I mean? So where it's
fair
like,
enough.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough. December 16th, 1944.
Watchmen's really good though.
The Battle of the Bulge begins in Germany. This was kind of Germany's last stand before their surrender. They were almost successful in extending the war. They had this really big effort to try to drive a wedge in the Allied lines in Western Germany. And they were very, very close to succeeding, and they would have isolated like a whole portion of the Allied army kind of like in the Netherlands and Belgium had they been successful. But it was kind of their last-ditch effort to extend the war, to resist the Allies, and although obviously Russia was coming
on the other side.
From the other side, so it probably it wouldn't have helped them in the long run. But
yeah, you can't really extend resources, and also losing Africa was probably a big thing, or North Africa and the Middle East, I guess, with all the oil reserves they could have had to definitely keep the war going. But losing all that stuff definitely kind of, I think losing that part was like the inevitable loss that we would have gotten regardless. But yeah, I forgot how like the lines look like when you actually look at like the actual lines, because like we had like weird lines, and like in the middle we had like the Americans, and then on the top we had like the Canadians, then the British, and the Australians.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if there was a French at all helping us out.
They would have been scattered in there, not like a formal. There wouldn't have been like a formal.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have been in like the stronghold areas. They would have been like, oh, just watch this post.
Guard Switzerland for us.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just interesting to look at those lines. And then even down in like the southern areas, like where Greece was, there was like resistant fighters down there too.
Yeah.
But it was like weird how we didn't go through Italy just to go straight through. We just went all the way, you know. We could have just like went straight shot into.
Oh, I mean, we did go through Italy.
I know, but like we didn't. I mean, like just totally have those resources to go straight to Germany instead of like landing at Normandy and just like letting you can hold France, keep it. We're good. We're gonna go straight to Germany from Italy. You know what I mean?
Well, it would have been like way harder. The whole point of the Normandy invasion was to have another front against Germany.
I guess, but like I don't know. Just in my eyes, just the way it looked. Maybe because like the natural barriers, I guess. But still.
In any case, the 16th of 44 is the anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. It's beginning anyway. December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, complete the very first successful flight of a self-propelled plane. This is obviously one of the biggest, I guess, technological advancements that were made. They were they were working on this in the 1800s for sure, but getting this right after the turn of the century, something that transformed the world and transformed society, transformed the military, transformed a lot of things. Their work and people that took their work and expanded upon it.
Yeah, we have a guy, or we had two brothers down in Santa Ana where we live. I have to double check. I have to relook who and what they were, but they had like a similar timing of doing this kind of stuff too. But yeah, it's like weird. Last week we had refrigeration. I think that's one just as big as like flight. And then like people like like when you hear stuff like that, you're like, oh, it's just refrigeration. You're like, no, dog, that's refrigeration. Like you want cold food, you want food that lasts longer.
Preserved food, yeah.
Or preserved food, like yo.
Yeah. December 17th, 1944. I guess sort of a fact that gets overlooked a lot, especially in the context of World War II. But December 17th, 1944, the United States government approves an end to the internment of Japanese American people in the United States. Something that I would imagine that not a whole lot, especially our age, not a whole lot of people even are aware of, that there were these internment camps here in the United States for, realistically, almost all Asian American people. There were a lot of other races that were caught up in it, not just Japanese people, and a lot of those camps were here on the West Coast. Obviously, the majority of
Japanese
of Asian immigrants were on the West Coast anyway. But yeah,
I mean, it's unfortunate that happened, and it was unconstitutional as well. But you know, there's other things that, like, I guess during the times, this is you that excuse, it does work for this, just the times, because obviously the Pearl Harbor attack, the people that helped out with carrying out that were Japanese Americans, I believe, that were in Pearl Harbor taking pictures and sending them back to Japan. So there was coordination. I think they just wanted to prevent any of that from happening, which made sense. And then a lot of the people in those concentration camps' sons served in the war. I remember listening to a Vietnam veteran who was Japanese that fought in Vietnam, but his two older brothers fought in World War II. I'm not too sure if it was in the Pacific. I think they got sent to Europe, actually, to fight. And a lot of those units obviously were looked down upon, like they're, kind of, but they also fought harder than any other units. There's stories of African American units, Hispanic units, and Japanese or Asian units that fought very violently and sacrificed just as much as anyone else did.
Yeah,
which was kind of like it's a weird change too in the war, or in American military kind of life, or because like usually any like military war, there was it was even a smaller percentage before this that fought in like the Civil War and like World War I, where we sent over minorities, but there was a very small percentage. But there was always someone there. It was very small. But like even at the time of this too, or even like during World War I, like Italians were treated just like how Mexicans were kind of treated, in the same kind of vein, I guess. Just because they were from like Southern Europe and they look different, obviously. Even Irish too were treated pretty poorly. And you kind of see like a transition of, the what's it called, political kind of use of like that kind of energy towards a certain people, I guess. But yeah, I mean, shout out to all those guys that fought, and regardless of like they knew their situation at home, but they knew they can try to make a difference.
On a completely different note, December 18th, 1946. We don't cover a lot of pop culture on This Week in History, but I think this guy's pretty significant. This is the birthday of a man named Steven Spielberg. Probably in, for sure, the top 5 like directors, I would say, of all time.
Yeah, a guy that really has a knack for immersing people with simple things. There was a scene, I forgot what movie it was. It was like a bomb scene where you just heard different sounds and different. You saw.
Oh, it's Munich.
Munich, yeah. Well, you saw what was going on in the car, but like at a distance where like these guys are viewing it, they're not going to be able to hear it, but like you heard it in the cinema, and
like they were on the phone too, so they were
Yes,
using the
but,
phone
like,
for
it's
like
just
part of the other.
his like way of shooting and creating these great movies is very I don't want to say it's totally unique because obviously guys have come and done it after him. Maybe I don't want to say have done it better, but there's definitely been movies after him that have been good because they've been influenced by him. But a guy that definitely is up there for sure, and has been part of great movies
and covered a huge spectrum of genres and such as well. I mean, just with like Saving Private Ryan, and War Horse, and Ready Player One, and
yes.
Jaws, right?
Jaws, that's true.
All sorts of stuff.
Indiana Jones, he helped out with.
Yeah, so he's covered a little bit of everything, and obviously he's been one of the pioneers for various filmmaking techniques and effects and all sorts of stuff. He's had his hands on a lot of different developmental things that have occurred in the movie industry over the last 50 years now.
I'm glad that he doesn't do too much CGI as well. Which is, I mean, unfortunately, Ready Player One had to be, but still.
Yeah. Last but not least, December 19th, 1998. I think this is probably one of the more recent ones we've had as of late. I know we had a SpaceX launch, I think, last week, right? December 19th, 1998. Articles of impeachment are filed against President Bill Clinton for lying under oath, perjury, basically. He was the second president to be impeached, or to like go through the process anyway. They obviously didn't remove him from office, but the House filed they did their half basically of the impeachment thing, but he was not convicted in the Senate.
Could have been the third if someone didn't
Nixon
leave.
if he stuck around.
If he would have stuck. And then Andrew Johnson was the other one. This is very is it ironic on the way that the situation's going on right now?
I would say so, yeah.
With how Trump, because he might be in the same seat as him, or same hot seat as him for not similar things, but the similar kind of way they might do is through that lane. But yeah, it's kind of weird how that's the anniversary, and then this is going on right now. But we'll see what happens, honestly.
Yeah. So that's all I got.
It's very fitting for the timing of that. Do not have sexual relations with that lady.